controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are ASAP Science here to make things make sense.
Today we are talking about muscles. We're also going to be talking about if steroids give you roid rage and the real reason that men go to the gym. Huh, yeah, Jack, bro.
Do you even lift,
Yo, bro, do you even lift, bro? You see these thighs, bro? He big, he thick, he swole.
But like, do you even lift, Greg?
Like, I mean,
how much do you
before
bench?
Corona, yeah, I used to lift but now I'm like, I ain't going out of my house. Like, I lift like potted plants. Okay.
Okay, but actually, that's kind of true.
How you doing?
Good. How was your birthday? I'm bringing that up to like segue, but like, happy birthday belated.
My birthday. It was my first ever COVID birthday. So yeah, hope maybe we're gonna have another one. Depends on the vaccine situation.
Yeah, I
Watch
almost
my new
certainly
vaccine
will
video,
have two.
'cause, like, you're having two, I might have two.
But Greg knew about this gift, but different parts he didn't know about. But we have set up in our backyard like a projector with a like a screen, so that we can have a couple people over in the backyard before it gets too cold and like watch movies.
Except it already is cold. It's been raining every night. Every time we have plans,
we have
it's like
tried.
so sad. We're like, oh, it's actually raining, so you can't hang out with us.
We really like have only watched it with ourselves, and we've been trying so hard to like coordinate.
But it's really cool, and it's like it was really hard to actually set up because we thought we were so slick at the end of September, being like, let's have a backyard that like can actually host people. It's like everything's sold out. Everyone is like, we can only hang out outside. We were like,
we should get an outdoor heater, and it's like you can't get that anywhere.
I asked someone at Home Depot about an outdoor heater, and he laughed in my face. Like, you know, when people kind of like no, he'd obviously been asked so much.
Like 500
times.
He
was literally sweeping. I was like, oh, do you know where the like outdoor heaters are? And he went, and he leaned on the broom and was like, okay, hun, let me tell you something. You want an outdoor heater? You should have been here July 2nd. I was like, oh yeah, okay, sorry. Like, and then it was like desolate. The patio section was like
they had
desolate.
nothing, and then we couldn't. Every store was like out, so it took us a while to set up.
But the projector is the main thing. It's so freaking cool. We have a white backdrop from ASAP Science stuff that it's really cool. Like, I feel very lucky, and watching TV shows outside is definitely a COVID sacrifice, because truly we've barely done it because it's been raining.
I know, and now it's probably going to snow soon because we're in Canada.
Great if you live in LA or something.
We're gonna have used it twice.
Literally. Oh my God.
Well, we could project on a wall in our house for ourselves,
and we can also do it like even when like we do get pricked with the vaccine. We can still, it'll be fun.
Oh
to have
yeah,
people over.
no, it'll be a great future in the
waste of
future
money.
next summer, like even if COVID's done. But speaking of Home Depot, let's talk about muscles.
Study time. Study time. Study time.
Oh yeah, why? Because people at Home Depot are like jacked. And
it just feels like a very like manly place. Like every time I go, I'm like, can you help me find the light bulbs?
I'm a little twink and I don't know how to do anything. That's so funny. I literally do that.
Not that muscles are manly, you know,
No,
like
not.
so many women are like,
oh my God. Okay. Used to again, pre-COVID. Nothing interesting about my life in the last like 7 months. I went to F45, which was this like workout Australian red flag, kidding Australian listeners, but like, you know.
I feel like that's like a regular occurrence.
They're like, we hate you. We stopped listening when you said it the first time. Okay. But F45 is this workout circuit thing. So you actually go from circuit to circuit. I am not like I would say 90% me and other girls, like my girls sweating, like me and my girls, like listening to the pump up jams. They would drop like 50-pound weights, like these tiny, like, you know, like beautiful fit girls, but they don't have huge muscles.
And like they're so strong.
Yeah, it's literally about testosterone. We'll talk. I'll get into it when I start talking about steroids. So they're so strong. Like muscles have nothing to do with strength. Like I could not. I'm like, their muscles are smaller than mine. Like I'm looking at them,
right?
And they would just like drop 60 pounds. And be like, come on, Candace, and they'd be like, They would be like, I'm going for round 2. You, Greg? And I'd be like sweating and purple and being like round 2, and they would do a class again. It was wild. Anyways, I hope they're doing well in COVID. They're certainly healthy.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, okay. I was gonna say that I have found. But.
You've gotten into muscle.
Oh, that's not what I was going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Well, a little bit, because I am secret to the podcast listeners. Maybe it will come out soon, but I'm working on a video related to muscles, potentially a song. And I have been learning about so many of the different muscles, like looking them up. Ironically and annoyingly, I recently, you know, when you like clear your like Google Chrome or your internet browser.
Literally never done that, but yeah.
So like all my searches have gone away, but now every time I type a letter, like a muscle comes up. Like, you know, like sometimes when someone's like typing something
anterior
in, it's like they put a P and it's like pornhub.com or whatever. Like mine is literally like that. Anterior, whatever. Like yeah, pectoralis majoris. Like every single time I type a letter, it's like some weird muscle that I've looked up.
Your like CIA agent is like, okay.
Interesting.
Actually, it does. Maybe you do want to maim a body or something. Like it's actually a little scary.
But I've just realized how amazing it is. Absolutely astonishing, the body.
Like
because
why we move. Oh my god.
Yeah, you think of your main large muscles, but you don't often stop to think about how many tiny little muscles there are interworking with tendons and bones
Your
and ligaments
feet.
and
Goodness, your feet.
Yeah, and there's like even in your neck, like just like learning. I'm not like having to know every single one, but there's over 600 muscles in your body, and I'm like, how did this evolve? It's crazy.
And you don't even think of like 600. That's so cool. They're all working in tandem so well for you to just be you, and you're never thinking that.
They have such specific move, like this little muscle will help you to like rotate just so much this way that it just blows my mind that
That's
the body
so cool.
And obviously it would be like maybe analogous in a dog but also very different because they're like, you know, physiology is obviously so different, but they might have some similar muscles that help them to like, you know, pronate or like rotate or whatever. But
pronate, okay.
I mean, I'm
the
like,
muscle
is that
song
the
is
right-
coming. Yeah, it is. It is. Wow. No, also, it's so interesting.
supinated and pronated. Is that what
Yeah. Your feet, like I always think of your feet and your hands because there's so many muscles. Like you see how intricate they are. Like obviously compared to like your bicep, you see what it does. It's a specific motion. But your feet, like because we used to live in trees, like based on evolution, that's why our feet were meant to grip branches, and that's why we have so many issues with our feet because the actual evolution of them, it's like technically there's a lot of bones and muscle in there that's not super used to us being like bipedal, but we've only been walking on 2 feet for actually a short period of time from evolutionary.
Yeah.
And a study I read once was that the ostrich feet and like knuckle and knee would be the most efficient for a human.
Oh yeah, because humans have so many problems with their like ankles and with their knees.
Girl, I can't walk. I'm literally 32. I can't
You
walk.
are the epitome of that.
It's so sad. Anyways, okay, so
all right, I'm gonna get in. Are you gonna do your study first?
yeah, you're going second.
Okay, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah, sorry. I just because I threw to you because I wanted you to talk about how you're kind of getting
Okay.
jacked. Like he's been working out a lot. He's just trying to be like.
No, I'm not getting jacked.
Koi fish over here.
Seriously have insane back problems that I have not
Mitch,
overcome. But
you have overcome.
no, I have. But
Girl,
I mean,
stand up, hold the torch. You've overcome.
I have overcome.
You're
no, I've
jacked, you're
definitely-
running, you're completely different than you were this time last year. Come on.
Okay, no, I definitely feel much better, and I do not see myself as like I look at myself. I don't feel like my body's changed that much, but I feel much better.
Okay,
for
but
sure.
he has body dysmorphia, but he's no, I'm kidding. Well,
Okay.
Steroids actually have been found to increase body dysmorphia.
Is that what you're going to talk about?
Well, part of it.
Like
I'm talking about
steroids?
steroids and roid rage. Okay.
Okay.
So this is a
Sure.
meta-analysis study, which I thought was fascinating. So it really went through, it was like 750 papers, and it searches
whoa.
from an AI system. I think this is so freaking cool for the keywords to learn about steroids.
Okay.
And roid rage is like, it's called hypomanic episodes. Like it's like,
Whoa.
so what they did, they find all of these studies, and what it is a lot of the times it's coaches and a lot of times it's underground wrestlers who have come into like the doctor, and they're able to find case studies of people who are taking steroids.
Okay, but what is an underground wrestler?
I know. Okay, so then I started getting into, so there are a lot of like boxing and wrestling matches that happen where people are like openly taking steroids, and they're saying illegal. Like obviously probably the WWE has like a certain like it's legal. We're all watching it.
Maybe
but
because,
there are
because that's not even real.
exactly. Imagine like someone's jaw dropped. They're like, wait, wrestling's not real? But still a lot of them probably take steroids. And
But maybe it's like maybe in these wrestling places they can be even more violent. Like maybe they don't follow any of the like don't punch the face kind of thing rules.
I think it's all yes, but I think
Or
there's
it's not, like,
there's
regulated.
illegal. There's like illegal boxing. Like we
Okay.
don't know, but we're like it's so not us. We're game. And like
I
I'm
know,
just like,
I'm
I'm
like,
like we don't know
what's
about
the
the
difference?
underground boxing world. But like those people have come into like doctors' offices or seeked help and been like, I'm on steroids and these are my symptoms. So they find all of these studies and case studies, and they found that when you take steroids, you have more likely to be depressed, more marital conflict, and it actually has deterioration of individuals' moral values.
What?
So it's like roid rage is like and some of the,
Like in the moment of the rage, or just generally?
like they'd be asked sort of like questionnaires like, why are you coming in? They'd be like, I'm having like issues with my mental health. And like that's something that they use in a lot of psychological studies is like moral values. They're like, do you feel like you're questioning your moral values, or maybe doing things that you're waking up the next day, or when you're stopping taking steroids because it's cycled a lot. Like you do go on them and you go off. Probably when they're off, and then when they're back on them, they're like, well, yeah, I'm like different. I'm acting different.
Yeah.
And a hypomanic episode, one of the things is pressured speech, and that like was so visual to me. Like someone be like,
Wait, what? That's what that is?
yeah, they're like more,
talking. What does that pressure mean? Like holding it in?
You know what I mean? Like picturing someone with roid rage. I
like
literally picture.
But you're right, like that kind of grinding the teeth. Like, is that really what you're gonna say to me?
And a doctor like, they had pressurized speech, or just being like, do you have pressurized, like when you speak, do you feel pressure? And I'm like, that's such a roid rage.
There's like literally, I'm not gonna say who on this podcast, but one of our friends, and I'm gonna tell you the second we stop talking about, like I feel like has pressurized speech, and I don't want to drag them because they're a lovely person, but
my god, it's like, probably a straight man.
I mean, yeah. But it's like he definitely isn't taking steroids.
Okay, no.
So far as I know.
God, I don't know. Okay, no. So this is the thing. Like all these studies to say, very fascinating, and like meta-analysis have found that roid rage is real. It makes sense from what steroids are. So if someone is taking steroids, they are doing it at the risk of actually changing their mood and becoming more depressed, more irritated, more irritable, which is interesting. And it's like, why are we doing this? You know, it's like, what? To be bigger, to be stronger, to be able to make more muscles and have less fat. So it's pretty wild. Anyways.
Well, it's interesting because, and I don't know very much about steroids, so just put that out there at first, but from what I understand, you know, there are performance enhancing drugs that wouldn't otherwise be like, even when we talk about the Olympics, like I feel like there are lots of drugs that the performers are allowed to take, right? So if you're an athlete, there are things that are scanned for that would get you disqualified. But then, you know, we started watching that documentary and still never finished the one about where he like it becomes a cyclist and then like gets exposed to this world of like performance enhancing drugs.
Oh yeah.
But they kind of make it sound like he for years trains and hits a wall, and it's like it's because everyone who's at the top is not necessarily taking illegal drugs, but they are all taking performance enhancers.
That's so humans are wild
because you can't hit past this point of like your oxygen levels or your muscles can't get any stronger.
You're like biologically a cyborg for a sport.
And so you have to start optimizing and even thinking of like even smart, clever things of Olympians going to the location early enough so that their body adjusts to the elevation. Like there's all these ways that you think about your body. I just think it's fascinating, and I don't know enough to know like what quote unquote steroids are.
Yeah. These were anabolic androgenic steroids. So you're right. That's a very specific type of steroid, which will increase your muscle size and decrease
right, because doctors will give steroids to minimize pain or to
also they do it a lot for burn victims because it can actually like increase
like growth of skin and muscle or something?
And nucleus within your muscles. So it's like actually I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh yeah, steroids are also used in health care. So I
wonder, and I'm not asking you this because you probably won't know the answer necessarily either, but it makes me curious if these like if someone was put on steroids for health reasons from a doctor, would they suffer the same consequences? I assume obviously it's long-term steroids.
Yeah, and a lot of steroids, like in a hospital setting, for example, are acute based on like the body's
it's just
like,
to give you that boost of whatever you.
But if they were on anabolic androgenic steroids for a long period of time, they would have to deal with their mood disorder.
That's
wild. So roid rage. Anyways, I don't have any experience with steroids either. Here we are, hands up with skinny little arms. But I'm glad I don't have roid rage.
It's so I'm such a chicken of anything like that. Like even if I thought I wanted to do it, which I don't, I would be too scared to do steroids. I don't know why. There's so many things in my life that I would think.
But
so many people aren't. I'm like too scared to have a tattoo. You have one.
Yeah, that's so
you know what I mean. Like
steroids to me is really extreme for some reason. I don't know why that is. Because you're right. It's like,
I'm sure that I felt that way about like marijuana for a long time in my life. It just takes me a long time.
It's literally that the science is saying you get roid. Like that's I think why I focus on the study, because like to me that seems really scary. Like other drugs that people do, a lot of the time they're like, this is my benefit.
Well, it's also interesting to hear from people in the fitness industry like how often we as all individuals, both male, female, are seeing bodies like portrayed as normal that are on steroids. So when we're working out without steroids, we're expecting, and lots of people are expecting that with lots of hard work, they can have those bodies that they're seeing.
Okay, The Rock, I saw him. I remember he like endorsed Biden, and everyone was like, famously, as someone who never talks about politics, I'm like, The Rock is so, I mean, like, controversial subject, like, but I'm like boring. But like, he is obviously on steroids, right?
I mean, like, I don't know, but I can't imagine how you
saw
can
him,
do that.
I was like,
big.
this has to be a fake outfit. Like, literally,
Someone
like,
made a joke that like his
joke.
head is a steroid as well.
Oh my God.
Even his head's on steroids. Like his.
For the video Mitch is doing, we were looking into like getting from like a costume store like padded muscle suits. It's actually what The Rock looks like. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just like a skinny little guy with a suit on. It's crazy.
But it is interesting to. All I mean is like thinking of. Obviously, The Rock is an extreme example, but there are so many people and bodies on Instagram and TikTok and all these things that you see, and I don't quite know because I've never taken steroids.
Now I'm like,
but
oh
I
my
have
God.
some friends or people in that industry, not necessarily in the industry, but who are interested in fitness, who would be able to look at a body and be like, that is a steroid body because I understand the limits of what a person can do.
I'm so ignorant, and as a gay too, I'm just like, how are all these gays look like so like literal baseball players? Like, it's so weird.
I
I'm
think
like,
you
why do
have
they all, like,
baseball players.
that was a
That's
weird
like
one. I was
the worst
I
sport to
literally was trying to figure out a sport where someone looked fit, and I was panicking because I knew baseball was a bad one because for some reason there's like people who
so
are
funny. It's like
couldn't
truly
think of a
the
sport.
sport where they're like allowed to not have like a six pack.
What's the most jacked sport? Okay, I'm so gay. I was gonna be like canoeing. Canoers are the most jacked.
well, probably like maybe the people who have bodies like that are like wrestlers or boxers.
Okay, this
people who have to
article-
have their clothes off.
Okay, it's so weird. This study kept talking about wrestling. I think steroid use is very high in the wrestling communities, but I'm like, okay, what about like okay, hockey, basketball, baseball? Let's choose those as North American popular sports. Who's the most like jacked?
I
Is
would
it
think
hockey
that.
players?
Well, for some reason, I would imagine that basketball players have more ripped bodies.
But do you think
then-
they're more likely to be steroidy or no?
No, I don't know.
For some reason, I'm thinking hockey now.
But they would just have huge legs and big butts.
But don't I sometimes feel like I could picture like steroidy vibes like in like when I see them in the locker room.
That might be true. I don't know.
We're literally just like trying to figure out like
Who
there's
takes the most steroids?
Steroids. Yeah.
Outside of wrestlers.
That's so weird. Okay, yeah, that's like a weird question. We'll never know. But yeah, they're all jacked, but not baseball. I don't.
It's
know
like,
why I chose
does
that.
Roger Federer take steroids? I don't know. Do they get
Tennis
tested?
players are also so weird. And I sometimes see tennis players like Roger Federer. He's like the best tennis player. And I'm like, he doesn't look that fit.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely looks
Objectively.
fit. He's just not like over because you don't want to
Yeah.
be like. Sometimes when people are so fit, they can't even like they can't stretch.
Yeah. Okay.
There's like a limitation to having massive muscles that he wants to be flexible. He needs to rotate.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to like move really quickly and have agility, which I think is maybe at odds with a
being
large
like muscular.
body.
Yeah. So wrestling it is. Know who also can really be flexible? Goalies in hockey. I was always like that. I'm like, hockey's so masked, but then there's always like the goalie who they all
It's, like,
protect who
doing
can like
splits.
literally like shablam, like for sure
With
death drop.
literally oh my god, that's so funny to think about. Like
I
goalies
always,
can
they
definitely
death drop. They literally whenever it's
And their
slow
hand is like
yeah, they're like bam, bam, and everyone's like, oh, he's such a sick goalie. I'm like, that guy's literally a ballet dancer. Like,
I know. Remember when Joe Rogan was like, "Oh, drag queens are just always doing the same thing," and Miley Cyrus was like, "That's what I think about you guys." But then I'm like, literally, goalies are loved for that. It's like if goalies are doing what drag queens do.
Also, Joe Rogan, he's so funny. Like everyone's like, Joe Rogan's not biased. He's not sexist. I'm like, literally, we've come to the point in society where we're like, we all love drag queens. It's like we're all on the like, you know what I mean? It's like number one show. We're all like RuPaul's taking over. It's like objectively, we're like everyone likes drag queens. And he's like, yeah, drag queens, like literally men being like women sucks, bro. And it's like, wait, you actually suck. Like, why do people think you're sorry?
Oh my god.
And Miley Cyrus too, like I don't know, everyone's like her comeback was so good. I'm like, it was good, but it wasn't like that good.
I don't know. I haven't followed that at all.
I just hated it so much that I wanted her to be like, shut up.
Okay, so my study sort of pivots off of yours because it's research into the main motivators of why men in particular want to go to the gym and build muscles and trying to understand like what actually motivates them. So what they found was that ultimately shame and guilt.
Oh my god, that's so sad.
It is actually sad. So shame and guilt are the biggest motivators for a lot. And this isn't for every man. This is just one
It's
study, but
literally
obviously
Joe Rogan giving them shame because he's Joe
And
Rogan's on
so-
steroids.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I feel like we can't back up these claims. We
Yeah.
don't know.
Oh, and Mitch is always like rolling his eyes like, I need to not bring up
Like,
Joe
we're
Rogan.
gonna get sued.
Greg is definitely going to go off the handle. Okay.
So basically, what they found was that 60% of men list health and fitness as their primary reason, but then the research found that that's not exactly true. Only 16% labeled appearance as their main motivator.
Huh.
But so the study would then take them and do a bunch of surveys and then also do tests to understand like their implicit bias and, try and understand what their actual motivations were.
That's so weird.
And they found that the biggest predictor for going to the gym was their perception of their body fat. So it was not when they would say it was about my muscles or just wanting to be fit and healthy. What they really realized is the vast majority of the men that were part of this experiment or study were going because of their
That's
bodies.
so interesting. I feel like that's not something people talk about that much.
And so they ultimately realized
Oh my
this
God.
tactic and technique that's not being fully acknowledged in men. It creates also sporadic and erratic exercise habits because it's not a sustainable thing. So to work out because of shame and guilt might motivate you for a week or two, and
It's
then
not
you
intrinsic.
fall off. So it's important
Oh my
because
God.
it's like these findings can help professionals, trainers, like people at gyms actually help maintain people's health, which they're saying is their main goal. And we can learn about, how do we actually motivate men? The shame and guilt might get them to the gym, but it doesn't keep them there. And so how do we create programs
I
and
don't
things
know.
that actually help to make people feel good when they go to the gym? And that was a big breakthrough for me recently with not only just exercising, but meditation. And I'm now really trying to apply it to a lot of the different parts of my life. But I've been thinking about like running, for example. I hated because I think I wasn't doing and something switched with me recently where like now I go because I actually am excited to go, which is a really weird transition.
Yeah,
I don't know what tipped that. And I realized like meditation's similar. I do it because I like it now.
What tip that? Like try and feel, like I'm just so curious because what do you think? If you could just predict.
I think the challenge is you have to go through a stage of pain. And meditation is like a stage of being boring. You're obviously doing it because you were told it's good for you, right? But is
that obvious? Is that
why else would somebody start if not that they were told that it's good for them?
Yeah,
or
no,
that they could look good, right?
Yeah, probably.
But
You're
then
right.
and so those were probably my motivations as well. I want to meditate because I want to have clarity of my mind. I want to like be more calm and happy. I want to work out because I want to look good. I want to be healthy, all these things. But then slowly it's transformed to like, wait, I actually feel good doing those things and now I want to do them. And of course I still like don't want to always do them, but there's been that sort of transition and I'm like, how do I apply that to other things in my life I want to do that I'm not breaking that barrier? I really, really, really have to find what I like about those things. And I think if you can't find that, you'll never find that consistency.
Okay, so that's really interesting because so you have been running for the first time in your life, and I've known you for long enough to see you try and then like stop. And it's interesting that you're saying like the motivation, and that is something that like I think with running, when I was bit by the bug, it was because I realized I felt high after. Do you know what I mean? Like now I'm wanting to ask you that. Do you ever realize you have a runner's high?
For sure. I mean, I'm not
And, like,
sure I
does it keep you
exactly. Well, I'm still in a stage where I have something like I need to burp out and I don't want to burp again, Mike. But I'm at a stage where sorry. I run and there'll be a certain point in my run where I am like, I've hit the point.
Okay.
It's not as hard anymore and I feel really good and I can keep going. But
okay.
right now, sometimes when I come home, I am like, wow, I am actually exhausted. Like I definitely am a little more lightheaded, but there is that element of I feel really good.
And does your day, this is something I've tricked myself. I don't know even know if it's true or if it's placebo. I have tricked myself that if I'm not physically active, I'm more sad in that day.
That may be true. I
you
haven't
haven't
fully tracked
fully
it.
had
I
one? Okay.
definitely notice if I'm having a sad or bad day but still have the energy to like work out or go on a run, then I feel better after.
Okay, interesting. So
definitely
because that is so interesting. Motivation, like I think that is so true. I don't know. Like I feel like when I think about going to the gym or being motivated to work on my muscles, a lot of it is about even meditating, the feeling of it, I know it will make me less
Feel better
sad or less stressed.
Right.
And that means
that's a good motivator.
It is. And I'm like, that's also part of the reason why I don't think I'm that jacked Do you know what I
you're
mean?
not
Because I'm
trying
like,
to, yeah.
it's like, oh, I get a little pumps in. I'm like, oh, I feel better about myself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But
And then
that's
I'm like,
fine. You don't have to be jacked.
yeah, I'm just trying to think like motive. Like it's just, this is what your study's about. Like it's interesting. And okay, shame. It's like as gay men, we know shame, girl. It's baked into us from literally the second we understand what sexuality is. Straight men, that's so sad. And I just think this is such a plague amongst all men.
Yeah, not just straight men.
And straight men maybe aren't talking about it as much as gay men. We've like been taught, I think, to talk about our shame more because we have like a more drastically messed up life. But it's like, you need to talk about your shame. When you were talking about programs, that's it. Understanding, like in therapy, being like, I have shame around the fact that I have blubber or fat because of society, because of what is the reason. And I think there's something interesting about that, like within like sort of misogyny. I think that guys like I can hear jokes being like, oh, she cares about that she's fat. Like women are more like, oh, I'm so fat, like that. I'm so fat. Like a guy would make fun of a woman saying that because it's a sign of vulnerability. But it's like, actually, we're realizing in the study they might feel that way too. And if they could talk about it more, it would probably be like help them with the shame, which would get them motivated to maybe go to the gym for like a different reason.
For sure.
Lasts.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about this study is that it does kind of highlight that, you know, dissatisfaction and dysmorphia can affect males and females. I think we all, and we know that, but we definitely talk about it through a female lens often. And I think that it is, males are often afraid to talk about this. And the study kind of ended, or like the conversation around it was like, we really should be focusing on like achievement and pride and fostering long-term healthier behavior, like, and positive feelings, right? So not necessarily, of course.
Oh my God, it's like, don't do steroids and get roid rage. You know what I mean? It's like, don't do something that's going to play with your ability.
I definitely am not encouraging steroids, but I can see why having like the because I'm saying part of the positive feedback is achievement. They're saying here because that is not associated with shame.
But at the sacrifice of your mental health to be happy.
What?
Like steroids actually give like.
I'm not talking about steroids. I'm talking about in general.
Okay.
Like I think you're saying, okay, but I just like do a couple pumps and go. I think it's important if you're not getting something out of it, maybe it motivates people to say, I want to at some point be able to bench press this much. And then I want to go to the next step. And that achievement can actually motivate people in a more positive way is what this is saying. And I think that's the slippery slope with steroids because people might hit a limit and then think, well, I need to keep achieving.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, get your, but don't do steroids.
So I think that's why the positive feelings obviously is like if you can find a way to feel good and be like, I'm going to feel good, not like that is the reward. Right.
Oh my God, that's
not
so
not what comes after working out for a long time. But yeah. So I mean, what do you feel about working out now? Like, has anything changed since our steroid and this conversation?
No, it's funny. I feel like steroids is something that I'm not like that interested in. Like, I feel like sometimes as a gay man, people talk about it a lot. So I feel like I'm forced to think, like, it's why my brain went to it. Cause I'm like, I know there's something out there that's like, but I'm not that interested. And it's funny. Like when we were in LA, like I remember so many like of our gay friends in LA would just be like, it's everywhere. They'd be like, oh yeah, you see that steroid? Like they talk about it a lot more that I'm like, okay, wait, this is obviously like more of a thing than I realized. Yeah. So that it didn't change much for me because I'm not interested in doing steroids. I just was curious about them because I know there's been a lot of talk. What about you? Did this help you with motivation?
Well, I think it's nice and reinforcing, and I feel that I do think for myself, I want physical fitness to be important. I think a big hard part for it is just like fitting it in and having a time and having a schedule. And it truly, truly reminds me of even flossing. Like I, for years and years would try flossing. Now, not that I'm addicted to it. I just like do it every day. And if I don't, it's because it feels good. Like I actually do it because I actually don't like not doing it now.
Imagine you were talking about the floss and dance move that people used to do too.
And I love to
I just love the way my hips swing when I floss.
But that is the thoughts on muscles. I say we get into our what did you learn this week of what's going on in science.
Oh, what did we learn this week?
All right, do you want to go first or second?
You go first.
Okay. Mine is related to Ernie, our dog. Aww. So it turns out that puppy dog eyes have evolved to manipulate humans specifically.
Oh.
So Ernie's
oh my God, that literally works on me.
Yeah, so basically they found that dogs, so there was a study done in like, what do you say, like foster dog care or kennels that, what's the name of those places? Like humane societies or things like that.
Like
dogs with more,
like rescue?
Yeah, dogs with more expressive eyebrows are way more likely to be adopted. So dogs that have muscles that are more likely to control and be able to express their feelings, it's like an adaptive traits that dogs have. So they've looked back and they realized that wolves don't have these muscles. So like current modern day
Oh my
wolves, which are like the
God.
closest analog to would have a common ancestor with dogs, have like fibers in there, but dogs have fully developed muscles in their eyebrow area that can give them the inflection of like looking at you and kind of either not like looking sad,
Wow.
and especially with puppies it makes them look sad, which is a trait that humans really gravitate towards.
It makes so much sense. It's just like, obviously we are such emotional beings. We know that as humans, and it's so funny that our like the pet that we freaking like made our pet is all of a sudden like, well, all of a sudden it helps when I do this. And
Right,
like, oh.
yeah, and they would have, so it would have been through an evolutionary, like a rapid
Sure,
evolution.
that's
They say like also the speed at which it happened
'Cause,
is
yeah.
incredible, because wolves and dogs share a common ancestor for like not that long
Not
ago.
long ago.
So humans would have unconsciously chosen dogs that were more expressive.
Well, think about breeding, like you said, kennels, like people who breed dogs. It's like they're
and when you look at a baby face and a puppy face, it's so cute, and part of that is that little
Yeah.
like kind of sad look. You know what I mean?
like babies evolve with larger, like their eyes are so big when they're young, and they do think it's like, we think that that's cute, and it helps us have like an actual like
So
relationship to the
ultimately,
baby.
it's just that those dogs would have had a selective advantage, and it's almost like
so
as much as the humans were part of that selective breeding, if you will, or like choosing of wolves or other dogs like to eventually become dogs. It was like the dogs were actually manipulating the humans.
Okay,
as
honestly, I
well.
can literally picture those eyes of Ernie, and it's like when I walk away, and it makes me feel so bad. Like if like I'm leaving, going home, and it actually makes me be like, oh, actually, I have nothing to do. I should just take him for a walk.
Yeah.
Or like
when he comes in and puts his head
Oh
on
my
your-
God, I pet him, I give him treats. It's like it works. Wow,
Yeah,
we are manipulated.
And he doesn't have proper eyebrows, but you can see a structure there that
Yeah.
like he doesn't have like hair that's different there.
That's so funny. Like he's actually not feeling the feeling. He's just like, oh, okay, they'll like flick the eyebrow. Here we go, guys. Treat, flick the eyebrow. Treat. Whereas I'm like, oh, he's so sad. That's so funny. Okay, mine is different. I am zooming out to space.
okay.
So I was reading this week about space debris, and like there's so much of it, and I just it kind of blew my mind. So I didn't realize this, but since 1957, humanity has launched 10,000 satellites.
Whoa.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot.
10,000.
7,300 have been destroyed because naturally they weren't meant to last that long.
Oh gosh. So they're but destroyed just out there?
So
Like,
okay,
broken
some
down,
are
or
floating
they-
around. Like Sputnik has like fallen and like burned up over
Right,
the
okay,
atmosphere.
yeah.
Like I just assumed you launch a satellite and it, like you understand its coordinates.
bring it
Like,
back.
I didn't know Sputnik had like didn't exist anymore. Like I don't know. I just didn't know this. I was like, wait, what? So yeah, Sputnik burned out. There's this one called Vanguard that is like no longer in use. It's just like spinning as truly garbage. Like okay, so I was like, that is crazy. So it turns out there's 100 million bits of debris orbiting Earth larger than a millimeter in size.
Oh, but that's like so little.
But when you're thinking...
Oh, because it's pieces from these that might have over time.
Yes,
just-
and that can actually be... Sorry, a lot... I'm not going to get into it, but a lot of damage can be done by small objects to
Fair.
the ISS, to astronauts. Like, we just... I guess for me, it was more an existential thought, just thinking of that many
just trash
things
in
that we
space.
have created orbiting as trash was a lot. And then I guess if you thought that that was small, I have a stat about
Oh,
a
I don't.
micron.
Sorry, I meant the
100
size
trillion.
of it. 1 millimeter.
Yeah, and there's 100 trillion if you include ones larger than 1 micrometer. But that's so small that you're
No, but that is still wild.
because
And-
anytime there's a collision or something in space, there's a lot of debris and they're small and they start to orbit. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's
that
it's
makes
like
sense. Break down over time, pieces come off. All
it's a
those
bigger
kinds of
deal
things.
than we realize because it can be dangerous. And some things are like astronauts have left like by mistake, like letting go of. So there's like tools, there's like a towel, there's like, that's so weird.
I'm so curious how they predict the actual number, like just by scanning a region and then
Yeah, and literally that, because they're studying how much debris there is because they have to figure out how to get rid of it because they are genuinely concerned. And there have been a few cases with the ISS where it could have really been done a lot of damage. Some of these orbiting things. There's a spatula,
just one.
a glove, a mirror. So also some of the things I've been thinking about is like using lasers to like literally zap them
burn it
away.
up.
And there's other companies that send these things into space that actually open up with nets and pull in like the larger, more dangerous debris.
What the heck?
Yeah. And when they sent it up recently to space, it like they had to be so careful because they're like, it could be so bad if this unleashed while like in the ISS or like on the way, because the whole thing was like to like grab things.
It's just like a parachute as they're trying to get into space.
Yeah, but it worked. But like it followed the coordinates that they had expected. So there's a lot of space debris. We're figuring out solutions, but even though there are small pieces, like they can be really dangerous. I don't know. To me, I thought that was really interesting.
Well, okay. Learn something new every week. Should we change his name? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to another ep. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, you can use hashtag Silent Podcast if you want to talk to us about muscles or suggest any steroids.
Oh yeah, someone did tweet that they wanted us to switch the order of this back. We're testing it out. We hear your voices. If you think they're wrong, tweet us. Let us know. We're science-minded.
We like to experiment.
Yeah, we only have one person telling us right now, so let us know. Yeah. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Peace.